Hello, YouTube. It is October 10th, 2019. I thought I was going to go through this and not even address the Evelyn drama, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it. It is actually one of the many shows that I've watched. I've actually watched Basketball Wives since the very beginning, since 2009, I believe that's came on because it was right after Housewives of Atlanta. Because I got into watching Housewives in the third season. I've been a fan of Real Housewives of Atlanta since 2009, 10-ish. Everything started up around that time. The Wendy Williams show, the Monique show, Basketball Wives, all of that because it was the new era of reality television. All the dating shows died now. You had, Flavor Flav, I Love New York, Brett Michaels, and all of them. And then you had the spin-offs with every one of the contestants having their own show. Then you had Charm School. All of that was in the 2005 through 8 era. Then came this era with the Real Housewives, and then Basketball Wives slid up in there with Shani O'Neal, right? So we got, Evelyn Lozada, who's a Latina woman who even I have always classified as an Afro Latina, and I'm going to get into why I've always viewed Evelyn as an Afro Latina, even though she hasn't always viewed herself as one. I'm very aware of the tweets that has came to light. Now that's something I did not know. I did not know that she didn't, at one point in time, didn't view herself as an Afro Latina. But we're going to get into that. But now there is a drama because she went back and forth with this beautiful Nigerian woman who I love me some OG, but just like every Nigerian, y'all know I've gotten on all of them. I have yet to see a full Nigerian with a wig, honey. Like what is with? Oh my goodness, it wouldn't pay. I know this is so off subject, but it would not pay for me to be able to get to the motherland and hook the girls up with some hair. I'm surprised somebody didn't come up with this idea because every Nigerian woman that I've seen, it doesn't matter if they got the money or not. No Nigerian woman has had a good wig yet. And I'm just going to name drop some of the people. Lovely T is Nigerian. Jackie Anna is Nigerian. OG on Basketball Wives is Nigerian. Nima Tane, I love you, honey. I love looking at the Darker Shade series, but honey, your wig games be clockable. I'm like, God damn, we can't get no decent wigs on our Nigerian sisters. Like, I don't know what it is with that obviously clockable wig line. Honey, we need to darn facilitate a way to get to the motherland to get the girls updated with times, honey. Get them some frontals with some customized hairlines, pre-pluck the knots, honey. Make sure you got accurate parting space. All of that. We need to get our Nigerian brothers and sisters together. But speaking of getting them together, honey, in spite of the difficulty in the wig department, honey, one thing they are not difficult in is the reading department because OG came through with the reading down of Miss Dargon Evelyn Lozada. While you want to be on Twitter calling somebody darn monkeys and shit, but you up on the darn national syndicated television in front of 2+ million viewers, patting your darn punani, as the darn Puerto Rican princess would say. But unlike the Puerto Rican princess, honey, that's not princess behavior. You is down in a motherfucking darn pool in a foreign country, jumping up and down, threatening folks and patting your coochie and all this, that, and the third. But you want to try to call somebody else uncouth. You want to darn try to say OG was being thirsty. But we was introduced to you on this show in season 2 by way of you admitting that you fucked Tammy's darn gone husband when she was still technically married to him back in 1998. But you want to talk about somebody's uncouth. Girl, boo, I don't care if you're white, Native American, Hispanic, multiracial, black. We're going to get to your doggone ethnic breakdown in a moment. But regardless of what background you are, it's just doggone totally ratchet and full of bullshit all the way around, no matter what her background is. But why you want to doggone call somebody Ling Ling and all this? And you know what? Speaking of Ling Ling, how many of y'all watch Beyond the Pole? Like, I'm like, how in the hell do you got an Asian stripper called Link? Like, how do you call yourself a racial empath? If Beyond the Pole comes back on, I'm going to need somebody to ask Ling Ling why did she think it was a good idea to call herself a common Asian slur? Like that is those are fighting words. Those are equivalent to another racial group calling a black person the N word. Yet you is going to buy the name of a stripper name called Ling Ling. That's like if I was to come up with a stripper name and call myself Aunt Your Mammy. Like I don't get it. But back to the basketball wives. So her ethnicity has been called into question. And people have started drawing conclusions once again based off of, features and all this. And we got to revisit this subject once more. So this is not to defend Evelyn Lozada and her actions because we already made it noted that I don't give a damn if she was a full white woman. Her darn actions was acting like a buffoon, honey. When you, and matter of fact, just this season alone, people talking about she's in the past, but this season she was about to jump over a table to get to Jennifer. She threw doggone wine in Jennifer's face, threatened her several more times, ran down the doggone road with a doggone bamboo stick to try to hit Cece with it. Doggone called Cece Lean Lean. And then you have the tweets now of you doggone comparing OG to an angry gorilla. All of this is just season alone. This ain't even going back to her throwing the wine bottles and jumping over the table to get to Jennifer and her fight with doggone Tammy. So out of 10 years, bitch, you ain't doggone progressed worth a damn. We seen Tammy evolve and got herself up off the show. We seen Drea. She went from being uh, the Cardi B before we even knew who a Cardi B was. She went from being the Cardi B character to being more of a professional darn socialite where she just gives us looks and darn all of that and a little acting role every now and again. Who else? Royce done moved off the show and done lived her best life. Said she ain't going back to the bullshit. Everybody's darn progressing. The young white girl, not Susie, not Diarrhea of the Mouth, but the last white girl that they had on the LA franchise, honey, the one that worked in the sports arena in a professional capacity, honey, she got gone after the first after her first darn on season. That's when they had the big tall glamazon bitch down in the darn on bar with her panties all butched up her ass, dressed all up and slouchy. They had to get rid of her and Brandy Seal, but it's like y'all still kept this bitch though. But y'all want to talk about somebody's acting uncouth. But let's get to the main topic of the head. What classifies an Afro Latina? I've always thought about this when it came to Afro Latinas. I always thought that it was somebody who had a significant amount of African ancestry. It does not have to be their dominant DNA trait per se, but I always assume that like proportionally it's a great deal of amount. And when I mean by a great deal, I mean like let's say your genetic makeup is 40% African, 30% European, 20 some percent Native American. I would classify that person as Afro Latina. If somebody is like 45% African, 35% European, 4% Asian, 26% white, I would classify that person as Afro Latina because their dominant leading trait is, the African. Or if they're like 52% European, 48% African, but like President Barack Obama, they got more of that black feature going on, even with a little bit less, um, black DNA, I would still consider them like an Afro Latina if they live in the African culture. If, visually to the eye, I would think of you as a light skinned black person. That's pretty much what I think of, as Afro Latina. A lot of people are thinking that you got to be pitch black, not, no disrespect, but you got to be a Marla Negra, Tatiana Ali. But it's like, oh, Juju, who's commonly mistaken for, a curvier version of Gabrielle Union. But it's like, Okay, we do got light skinned Latinas that we recognize. We got Lala Anthony. She's a Afro Latina that we've always recognized. Matter of fact, I've always thought, and weird to me because I remember Lala back when she was Lala Vasquez. You would have thought that was a dead giveaway for me, but considering my family background, I was totally oblivious to darn Spanish names, and I always looked at Lala Vasquez, now Lala Anthony, as a light skinned black woman because she actually looked like my best friend from darn school. So it's like Lala is an example of an Afro Latina, about the same complexion as Evelyn. Um, who else? Zoe Sadana is an Afro Latina, a little bit deeper in complexion. But now we're moving the goalposts for Evelyn. Now I'm not once again breaking down whether she's Afro Latina or not does not excuse her actions. I'm not saying it. She's still a ratchet, trifling buffoon of what she portrays on TV. Now I still follow them in person because I'm able to separate the scriptedness from the reality. Even though some of the reality does show that some of them do act this way because the drama has, extended off camera. Um, but I don't get too vested in this, like Shani would say. But Shani, this is my thing. I understand all that. You went on your live stream talking about, yeah, we only see about 3 to 5% of what the show portrays, and I get on Evelyn, this, that, and the third. Okay, this is where people have a problem with you, boo boo. Because I'm getting all this together. We're gonna break down this racial stereotypes. I'm gonna have to bring up the pictures and stuff again, debunk all this stereotyping by face and darn on skin color. Because once I show y'all the comparisons, we're gonna stop judging people based off of facial features and stuff alone, and thinking just because somebody's fair skin with a thin nose, that automatically means that they're 70+% European. Because I'm about to show some of my own family members who can break that stereotype. But before we get into that, Shiny, the reason why people get pissed off with you is you talking about you talked to Evelyn off the show. How come in 9 years, you telling me in 9 years, okay, she been off for two of them. So 10 years, Evelyn's been on this bitch for at least 6 out of the 10 years. You telling me in 6 out of 10 years, Shiny, we can't get not one clip of you actually scolding Evelyn. We got a clip of you there gonna calling out everybody else. But you telling me that somehow, despite the fact that you're the creator of the show, despite the fact that you got producer credit, you like to go in and out of that producer status whenever you motherfucker want to. Like you when somebody called you on your bullshit, you like to tell them thank you for your services. But then when it comes to Evelyn, all of a sudden there's no they just conveniently don't include the footage of when you gonna call out Evelyn on her bullshit. But you supposed to be an actual producer of the show. You supposed to have pull where you could actually get somebody fired. But you telling me you don't have enough pull where they can include evidence, like you not looking over the actual final cut of what they're about to put on TV, and you're the actual creator of said show. Did you do like darn on old girl off of Married to Medicine and just sold your rights away to the darn on show altogether? Like you just a face, but you really don't have no say so no more. Cause that's what I'm getting from this Shiny. Cause I'm trying to figure like it's either one or two things. Either you no longer got full control over your show no more, and you only got limited say so. Or you do got control, which would make it bad on you because if you really do have that control and power, how come you're not actually looking at the final cut of what the darn show gonna look like before it's produced? And how come Evelyn's scenes where she's being chastised by you is not included in there? So now it looks like you're biased. They got it looking like you never call out Evelyn, but you're saying on your Instagram live that you do. But you speak to Evelyn so much that they never catch it. That's weird. If you're speaking to her every day, how in the world does the show somehow not pick up at least one of those conversations? You see how crazy that sounds? So every time you speak to Evelyn, every single day is a time frame where the cameras are not rolling on you. Really? So everybody else has had their drama pulled up of you cussing them out and calling them out. You don't call out everybody. Jackie, Malaysia, Brandon Seal, uh who else was it? Jennifer multiple times. You about to get on Jennifer this darn on reunion. Tammy. But we have yet to see Evelyn. And this the same bitch that nearly threw knocked you the fuck out with that darn on wine bottle. She about missed that bitch and knocked you clean clothed out with the darn on wine bottle. But you darn on acting all scared and the darn on beside yourself because darn on OG threatened to break somebody's neck. Yet darn on Evelyn nearly darn on busted your eye out. You was about to look more worse off than what the brat did to the darn on cheerleader down near the club, honey. But you still feel comfortable enough to hug it up with Evelyn, even though she was about to bust your eye out on an accident from throwing that darn on wine bottle your way. But you mad because of some verbal words that OG said. And now you talking about, well, behind the scenes, y'all didn't see that she pushed you to get to somebody else. Okay, so you so scared of the way that she pushed you, but you not scared of that wine bottle that nearly busted your eye. You scared of OG pushing you out the way to go after somebody else. But you're not scared of the way that Evelyn, time and time again, after 10 years, and even being on a Yana Van Zant, is still acting the same way. This is OG's second season, but this is like Evelyn Lozada's, what, seventh season? Because once again, she took a couple years off, came back, and still with the bullshit. She actually had time to rest. She done had a whole child. Done been married twice. Like Tammy said, done jumped from football to basketball to baseball. What's next? Soccer and hockey. She done jumped to nearly every darn on profession of a darn on dick, but she can't find no way to be professional. She can find a way to jump on every darn on professional darn on sports dick, but she can't utilize that same professionalism to darn on act like a darn on wholesome darn on woman. But then again, I wouldn't expect nothing more from somebody who's actually patting their coochie down there basketball wise, talking about she got A1 cooch, honey. I bet you do got A1 cooch when you darn on attracting the darn on basketball player, the football player, the soccer player, the soon to be hockey player. I mean, must be nice. The double standard of that, because let it been any one of the black girls down there doing the same thing, they would have been all types of slut shamed and everything else of darn gonna talk about they coochie A1 and how they can get this, that, and the motherfucker third. But then you want to turn around and call somebody monkeys. This is why I say, regardless of her ethnic background, it doesn't darn gonna erase her ratchet behavior regardless. And then you got darn on bootleg great value version of darn on Cardi B, Miss Phoebe, honey, looking like a darn on Furby mixed in with Mrs. Potato Head. What do you get when you mix Mrs. Potato Head with darn on the Furby the bird? You get this darn on knockoff great value darn on bitch down in the basketball wise called Phoebe, honey. Just a smiling them darn on veneers, honey. I don't know why the motherfucker darn on Z-list celebrities go get them darn on veneers and be overly whitened, so unrealistic. It's like you don't properly shave them down right. They look like they just big old dentures in your mouth. But anyways, we not even gonna read Miss Darngon Phoebe, aka Darngon Tweety Bird meets Mr. Potato Head bitch. But back to you, Shotty. This is the shit that people is over with you. But I'm still here for the show because I will say this. I am for a good darn dragon and all this, that, and the third. Now, I will say this. Now, if OG ain't coming back, CC ain't coming back, Tammy's gone definitely. Now, I won't turn on you because it's like, bitch, who's going to darn go? Because if it's going to be a pick on Jackie season next year, and because Jennifer don't give enough, Jennifer go back to kissing darn on Evelyn's ass, honey. It's like, oh no, this would make me stop. But for all y'all talking about, oh, this show is so unsuitable for black people, oh, shut the fuck up. Now we all for, this real life situation, a teachable moment of, calling out ratchet behavior and all, but don't act like y'all ain't here for the drama as far as on the scripted level of the television. Because this shit wouldn't have lasted 10 years. Darn gone love and hip hop wouldn't be going on 10 years if it wasn't for people tuning in. Y'all ain't darn gone tuning in to darn gone Married to Medicine darn gone LA. Cause it looked like that shit still in limbo. And that was mostly positivity with grown professional darn on women in medicine, black women in medicine. Y'all ain't watching Holly Robinson's Pete darn on family show. Y'all act like y'all want these shows is strictly about home values. But then when we got the shows like that, y'all don't watch. Y'all don't watch. But in regards to this Evelyn situation, this is where she took it too far in general because I'm trying to figure out why are you down there calling people lean? Because the camera can only edit so much. But they can't manipulate words. You down there literally calling people lean lean. You calling people monkeys and all this shit. While having the privilege of going in and out of your blackness. Now let's break down this darn gone culture once and for all. Now, is Evelyn Lozada black? No. So now if she's ever caught saying that she's a black woman, now this is where I got mad with her at. When OG said that she wasn't black, and Evelyn looked shocked and is like, no, bitch, you're not black. Now you Afro Latina, but Afro Latina does not necessarily mean that you're black. Because once again, here's where the culture difference was coming in. People don't realize that OG is not a black American. She's actually Nigerian. So she's full African. So her definition of black is different than what we view as black because believe it or not, a lot of Nigerian people view black people as mixed race. Like we're not even seen as black to them, and we're actually like 70% African on average. But anybody that's not a parent of two 100% Africans, Nigerians tend not to view them as black. Now, of course, that's not the Americanized Nigerians that come to America and recognize that we are actually black people. But the ones who are mostly on the continent don't really view us like, black people like that. Even though we got the welcome back home with Ganya and we got, other countries welcoming us in, Nigerians do not necessarily see us as full black people. I've had some people from Nigeria actually reference to me as mixed race, um, which is a fallacy of sorts. But in general, as far as a black person, we are deemed full black because if you're over, 60% African and you have, prominent black features, the hair, the skin tone, the nose, the lips, you are naturally deemed black. Even if you're biracial, you are deemed black, depending on the way that you look. Even if you are white passing, if you classify yourself as black, you actually deemed black. And even you don't even have a choice if it's known on if the doctor knows both your parents. If one is black and one is white, they don't never give the option of the biracial to be white. They always go with black as a default. Even if they wanted to classify the baby as white, which will make more sense if the person if the parent is a black American and the other parent is white, it's more probable that the child has more European DNA than black DNA, but the doctor will still label the child as black. So that's how you will have people such as Tia and Tamara Mari, Tracy Ellis Ross. I put her picture up and through here. Uh, would be labeled as black, even though they are clearly biracial. Now, Afro Latina, who gets to determine who and who's not an Afro Latina? Now, I view Afro Latina, like I said, as anybody who dominantly has a significant amount of African ancestry to the tune of 30+%. Now, Afro Latina is a combination of culture along with racial genetics. And what I mean by that is for you to classify yourself as an Afro Latina, you actually have to have a good amount of African ancestry to the point where somebody would have to view you aesthetically as a person. Like at first glance, do I it do if you did not tell me who you are, if I did not hear your accent, would I mistake you for a light skinned black woman? That's how I view it when it comes to lighter skin. Because once again, when people think of Afro Latina, they're thinking that you have to be automatically dark skinned and pass for like a dark skinned black person, which is ridiculous because black people, we come in different shades and can be still full black. I ain't talking about somebody who's mixed. I'm talking about you can be light brown, you can be, deep cream caramel, a toffee color, bronze, deeper brown, rich chocolate, and still be black. So in Latina culture, I don't know why we just view people who are like Lupita Nyong'o color as Afro Latina. Anybody who's like 4 shades lighter than me is automatically not black. I don't understand that. Cause like I said, ain't nobody never told Zoe Saldana that she's not black. Ain't nobody ever told Pam Grier, who's literally mixed with everything, that she's not of Latino heritage. Cause I think Pam Grier is mixed with a Cayenne Indian. It reminds me of the season. To my Cayenne folk, y'all correct me of how to pronounce that, but she's mixed with Cayenne. She's Black American. She's of Latina heritage. She got a whole bunch of shit going on with her. But just like Black Americans, we get to determine who is black, and we do not set limitations on us like we all got to be, rich, sub-Saharan dark with wide nose. Because as you can tell, I don't have a wide nose. I have very prominent cheekbones. My lips are not necessarily the fullest. Now my hair is definitely undeniably kinky. I'm a 3C, 4A, 4B hair type, but some people, most of us have like the 4C, 4B afros. But people think, if you have, the 3A hair that somehow you're not black, and it's like just so many darn on stereotypes. So let's go ahead and break down um who gets to determine or whether someone's Afro Latina or not. So I'm going to go ahead and click over the screen share for the rest of this video, and we're going to get back to the commentary. Okay, y'all, I'm back. Like I said, this is just my thoughts on Afrolect, and we also tackling a series of other subjects and stuff in between this. But the ultimate point of this video is addressing who gets to identify as Afro Latina. This is such a confusing topic, even amongst Latino people themselves, because we got to realize that Latinos are heavily colonized. There's different cultures within the Latina community. You got Mexicans who don't really fuck with the Puerto Ricans. Then you got the Guatemalans, and you got the Ecuadorians. You got the Venezuelans. You got the Brazilians. You got all these different groups, and then you actually got the actual originator of Spanish, Spaniard community, which all of them derive from, as far as the white side, which is Portugal. And Portuguese is actually different than the Spanish that everybody else speak. So a lot of Portuguese people can speak the Spanish, but a lot of Spanish speaking people cannot speak the Portuguese, which hence why they are identified differently as Portuguese, while everybody else along the islands and shit are considered, Latina, and the countries such as, Mexico. But who gets to identify as Afro Latina? I think it would behoove us not to, you know, see from African people who gets to identify as Afro Latino or Black Americans, but actual people of the Latino culture themselves, they are, identifying themselves as Afro Latino, whether they look more of the stereotypical parts, such as this woman, or as you see in the video, some people who look even more racially ambiguous than Evelyn Lozada. So let's go ahead and look at this 2-minute video, and I'm going to come back with the rest of my commentary.
If you're using the term and not feeling like you can interchange it with black, this is not a term for you.
oh, no, that's not my place to tell you what you're supposed to identify with. That's your journey.
I mean, anybody with Afro descendants can technically identify as Afro Latina, but it's like,
it's hard to like really kind of put it into words.
It's the heritage, nuestra herencia, nuestras costumbres, nuestro lenguaje.
I guess it's really about how comfortable the person is with acknowledging their roots.
Pero también es una afirmación que de hoy en adelante es así como yo me identifico y es así como voy a impulsar a mi familia, a mis hijos, a mi próxima generación, a que contribuyan a ese reconocimiento cultural.
I think it's very important to be proud of where you come from, but also realize that like if you look a certain way, you're gonna get treated a certain way.
it's a little bit more than just heritage. It's like, are you giving space to the darkest skinned Black people?
Am I the only one who thinks she sort of reminds? If anybody's familiar with YouTuber China Fox, she sort of reminds me of China Fox with this hair and aesthetic going on, which goes to show that Afro Latinas can come in very different varieties. And another thing I want to mention China Fox for a reason because China Fox is a very light skinned black woman who some people always ask her all the time. She must be biracial because she got green eyes. Uh, she must be mixed race, even though she has two black parents. This her skin tone, some people would automatically be quick because she's lighter than Evelyn Lozada. Would be quick to think, oh well, she can't necessarily identify that she's black. Once again, this is why I say, who gets to make the determination?
And you need to give that mic over to the people who talk about.
Meanwhile, her hair is kinkier, but skin tone still fair. It's giving more so Kiki Wyatt tees. Just like Black Americans come in different hues and tones, I feel Afro Latinas can come in different hues and tones as well. It depends ultimately on a combination of the genetics and the culture. Like if you are consistent with, embracing your African roots, you actually have a certain amount of DNA to the tune of over 30+% for, Latinas, because we got to realize a lot of Latinas, even though you could be Asian, Native American, Black, white, and can be Latino, usually Latinos are a combination of Latin, Spanish, the European in them is from the Portugal, Puerto Rican, you're going to be Taino Indian, and then you got Black DNA, which I think Puerto Rico tends to be heavy Ghanaian DNA. And then, of course, if you're in Mexico, Mexico is going to be Aztec Indian. There's another Indian tribe down near Mexico that I'm not as familiar with. There's quite a few Indian tribes, but Aztec tend to be the most common, followed by Black and white. And it's any combination of that that typically makes up the genetic of Latinos. Some can be more native, some can be more white, some can be more Black, some can be a little bit more Asian. Because once again, you also have that Asian, which is a derivative from the Native American, from the Native Americans that came through America many millenniums ago, through the Bering Strait. So a lot of Native Americans who descend from those Native American Indians tend to have a little bit of residual of the Asian DNA. And then you have Asians who are actual modern day Asians altogether who are inhabitants of the island that have mixed with the Native Americans. So it's so many variables that go into this. But back to the video.
About it, but aren't listened to.
I'm pretty sure if you look on Univision, all those people maybe have like, a speck of Black in them, but it doesn't matter. Why? Because there's still no people who actually look Black.
The best way that I can put it is that, like, when I was growing up in high school, the Puerto Ricans and Dominicans were like, you don't speak good enough Spanish and you act blacker, so you're not really part of this table.
In the Hispanic culture, a lot of times it's taboo to acknowledge your African or Black side.
The Asian kids were like, yo, he's one of us, but like, nah. The Black table were like, yeah, like, you can sit with us, like, you're Jamaican and Japanese, right? And I was like, sure, like, that's close enough.
When I walk into a space, you know that I'm a Black woman.
Okay, wait a minute now. That shit is problematic. Now, see, that was that Evelyn like shit, like you going in and out of your blackness, because now didn't he just say that he's full Puerto Rican? and he allowed himself to go to the table with the black kids because they thought he was Jamaican and Japanese. And I'm assuming that his Puerto Rican heritage must have some Asian in his family because he's hitting on some Asian ancestry. Because once again, in Puerto Rico, you actually have Asians that are Puerto Rican because the nationality is Puerto Rican. The culture is Latino, and the racial background of this person is some African mixed with white, mixed with Asian and Native American, Spanish DNA. So you got about 5 different things going on with you that gives you this aesthetic. But you don't have any West Indian culture of, Jamaican origin, though. I just wanted to point that out. See, it's this darn on bullshit right here that actually pisses people off. But let's continue
When
on.
I walk into a space, you know that I'm a black woman, right? So when I use the term, I'm also acknowledging how I appear, how I look.
These were people I can absolutely speak to, even though I knew that the other table was the one that I belonged to. But at the same time, I was navigating between both, and I think that that's what like Afro Latino is. Like you get to sit in between those two tables. You get to pick your table if you want.
See, interesting perspective because you got the guy who's light skinned who you can tell there's something there. He's not passing. He's not no white passing at all. Like you can tell that there's some African up in there, along with a couple other things going on. And he's feeling very confident about just going in between and sliding in and out, depending on who's mostly accepting him, especially being receptive to sliding into the blackness, even though he knows that he's not really of the black culture. Cause I don't even get the black from him like that. I don't know what the Latinos was talking about he had blacker than most darn on that. He don't strike me as the type, in my humble opinion. And I've been around quite a few, Hispanics that are actually, black culturally. He doesn't give me that. Where else you got the woman who, is undeniably chocolate black. Where's she at? Such as this. Then you got your lighter skinned man right here, whose hair type looks like it's actually kinkier than mine's. Once again, we got our woman that looks like China Fox, who's Latino. Another lighter skinned woman. And a mid light skinned woman as well. So it goes to show that Afro Latino can come in several different hues because I'm looking at them, and for the exception of the racially ambiguous guy right here, I would say nearly all of them, the rest of them are definitely will meet the qualifications for Afro Latino. Because if I go down the street and I look at them, I'm definitely thinking of somebody that is black. I would because once again, when I think of Afro Latino, it is somebody where if I look at you, along with your speech and all that, before I even hear you speak, I'm thinking of a light skinned black woman. And then when you speak, I'm thinking of, okay, you're an Afro Latina. That's what I think of when I think of like Latina people, that you can actually pass for like a light skinned black woman, mixed, you look like a black woman with some Native American features. Because once again, you got the Puerto Ricans with the Taino Indian. They features be strong at times. Like you got Lala Vasquez over here. She's Puerto Rican. But before I even knew who she was, I thought she was like a light skinned black woman. But then you got this one right here who really looks like he's half and half. So I think it's a combination of, once again, your DNA mixed in with your actual culture and not, just sliding in and out based off of convenience. But like I said, it's a complex topic because the entire island of Puerto Rico, you could be as dark as a Marla Negra, and they actually believe in the reverse version of the one drop rule. where if you can trace a grandparent or a great grandparent that's white, you get to claim that you're white. So if I trace my great great grandfather, who's actually is white, I can legally in Puerto Rico classify myself as white, even though I am clearly damn black. Black with darn going kinky curly hair. But in Puerto Rico, based off of their laws and their census, I can classify myself as white. That's why I say this shit is so damn confusing. Because in Puerto Rico, somebody like my look can classify themselves as white, while somebody like this can get away with saying that they're fully black. Now, at the end of the day, Afro Latina is having some moderate African ancestry, in my humble opinion, mixed in with having Latino culture. Because once again, it's a combination of majority culture with racial being secondary, but it's a significant factor. Like you can't have one without the other. Afro Latina, I feel, focuses on 30% race, 70% culture. Like it's still the culture of Latino, but you are a predominantly Latino that is of the African persuasion. Now, you may not be as much of the African persuasion as a Mara La Negra over here or a Juju, but you might be somebody that looks like one of these women where you're light skinned, but honey, you aesthetically you look like Jill Scott. Like if you darken up her skin, Jill Scott and her is about damn near the same. Even the hair texture. Matter of fact, Jill Scott has a looser hair texture than this woman does. Once again, debunking those stereotypes where Hispanic people have the curly hair and anybody who's mixed have curly hair. But all black people have 4C hair. Number one, it ain't nothing wrong with having 4C hair, whether you're a light skinned woman or if you're a dark skinned woman. But curly hair can be, representative in everybody. From, whether you're my complexion and have curly hair. Matter of fact, my hair has gotten damaged over the years due to, me suffering from my autoimmune disorder, Crohn's disease. It affects my hair and everything else. But here's a picture of my hair when it was short. Give y'all a look of what my hair used to look like. So as y'all can tell, I have naturally, very curly hair. Here's also a picture of my grandmother. Now this picture really ain't doing it justice because it really doesn't show her curls. But if you've seen the picture in person, her hair was 3C all the way throughout. It's hard to describe in a picture because it looks like an afro, but it actually is, noticeably defined curls. Like if her hair grew out some more, it was very loose curls, naturally, very tight curls, 3C hair that most people who use the hair chart would classify it as. Once again, debunking the stereotypes of, you have to be outright, biracial or overly mixed. Now, granted that, my family is a little bit all over the place, but my immediate family is black for the most part. And that's basically it, y'all. I think I'm gonna, end this one right here and get y'all thoughts on this. What are y'all thoughts on this Afro Latina subject? I know we touched on Evelyn Lozada because that's the one who started all this bullshit up, and we already got her together on, regardless of what race she is. Her actions were completely deplorable, but she really sparked a more bigger conversation of who gets to identify as Afro Latina. And why do we limit who identifies themselves as Afro Latina? Like I said, I think it's a combination of both culture and some racial influence. Like you have to be at least 30+% African. And the reason why I say 30% is because with that Native American and black DNA, proportionally, that 30% can be a significant factor. Because I've seen people who are, dominantly African, but their African DNA is like 40%. Matter of fact, one of my former spa clients, they was 40% African. I kid you not. He was 40% African. A majority of that was from the Congo. Fair skin, about 3 shades lighter than this woman. I thought he was white, natural straight hair, fair skin. I had him actually show me his answers to the test because I didn't believe the shit. But fair skin, straight hair, 40% African. He was around 27% Native American, a couple of percentage of Asian, and the rest was like European, with a large amount of Spanish, ironically, even though none of his family is Hispanic. Like, he didn't classify himself as a Latino. His family always classified themselves as white, but so a good amount of his European actually showed from Portugal, which is weird that none of his family identified as Latino, but that was his second leading thing in the European ancestry. But a clear breakdown of somebody less than 50% African but had dominant African DNA, but their traits looked like they were a full white person. Like, if he didn't tell me that, and the reason why that came up is because we was just having general conversation, and he asked me about my background, and I mentioned about how I'm black, but I have the native, and then we had that conversation because I also had the curly wig on that day, and that really enhances the look. That's why I also tend to, when I go for my Afro wigs, I tend to go kinkier because I do recognize that confusion comes up. But yeah, we was having a conversation. It started up by me having on my curly wig that day, and I guess with the curly wig and my look, he asked me, and then it went into him mentioning about him being black too, and I gave him the look like. Because when I tell you he was darn on white, he was darn on pitch white, like NC 15 shade and matte type of white. But he actually, like I said, showed me the ancestry, and it goes to show how you cannot stereotype people. Because ideally, even though he thought he grew up as a white man, he is actually more black than he is white, and actually has some Latino culture. So I'm trying to figure out now, if he was to go and start classifying himself as Afro Latino, would he be able to get away with classifying himself as Afro Latino with 40% African DNA as his top leading DNA, but his features are more than anybody in this video? Because, like I said, super, pointed native nose, very fair skin tone. I mean, not overly fair. I mean, he was a Fitzpatrick #2, so he had a little bit of bronze to his skin, but in comparison to me, it's like he was lighter than J-Lo. I'll put it like that. Like, he wasn't as light as Rose McGowan or who else? Jennifer Aniston. He wasn't quite that light, but he was like he was like Shakira's complexion. Like, he was significantly fair. He was bordering that light fair category for somebody who's supposed to be black. So that goes to show. And then another person though. You got Robin Dixon from Darn Housewives of Potomac. I remember when we actually broke down her DNA. Now she's 38% darn African. Now she has two parents that identified as black, and I put her picture up and through here. She always thought she was black. Now I don't know how the hell she thought her ass was darn black, and she more lighter than the biracial girl on the show, Katie Ross. But came out that she's 58% European. What was it? 38%? No, 38% African, and then the rest was Europe. 58% European. It wasn't no Native American in there because she thought she was Lumbee Indian, and we want to get into Lumbee in a whole nother video, honey. But I'm trying to break down what in the hell was the rest of her DNA profile, because I remember she didn't have no African DNA at all. So she was 58% white though, 38% Europe, African. So that's 4% other. So I'm thinking maybe it was Asian DNA or something, because Latino is classified under European. So I'm trying to figure out what was that other 4% DNA. Matter of fact, let me see if I can bring that shit on up. because I still got that saved. Oh shit. No, I can't. I'm using the software, y'all. I forgot it won't let me actually pull up the video if I'm actually using the recording software because I was about to pull up what was that other 4%. Not that it really matters because she's dominantly a white woman. But she has a good amount of African ancestors. But then again, I would classify her as more of the, mixed race one. But when you have somebody as deeply complected as Evelyn Lozada, who is darker than Beyonce, who is like damn near on par with Zoe Saldana's skin tone, do we get to classify her as not being a black, an Afro Latino, not necessarily a black woman? Because let this be known, you could be Afro Latino and not necessarily be black. As far because once again, I deem an Afro Latino to have different DNA parameters than a Black American. Because most Black Americans, we're like 75% African on average, versus a lot of Afro Latinos tend to be like 55 to 60-ish percentage on average. Like we got Sunny Hostin from The View. She was like 66% African, 6% Native American, and the rest was European. So it's so much variables that go into that. But I love to know y'all thoughts down below, especially if you're a Latino subscriber. Honey, please darn gone for us black and white and Native American, viewers here. Y'all break it down more for us. So to my Latinos watching this, honey, please educate us more on this subject. Now I understand even some of y'all get confused on this because, honey, old dude was contradicting the fuck out of everybody else, honey. He darn gone talking about he was gladly accepting that his ass was Jamaican and he don't got no bit of Jamaican heritage. It's like, number one, Jamaican is a nationality in which you can still claim Jamaican to a certain extent if you're not from Jamaica. But it's like, bitch, you got to at least have a Jamaican parent, a Jamaican grandparent or something. But you don't got no Jamaican roots. And you gladly accepting that somebody mistook you for Japanese and Jamaican, bitch. Really? So like I said, my Latino folks, I definitely love to hear y'all opinions on this. Y'all feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're going to actually go into breaking down genetic stereotypes within another video. But that is it, y'all. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon with more videos. Why is there a damn fly up in here? I can't wait till winter comes, y'all.